Hello, my name is Thomas James Patton O'Maher, and I'm the cousin of your friend Ezekiel. Yes, I am. I wasn't born in America. I was born in Scotland, and I moved to Ireland, and then I went to England, and I eventually sailed to the Americas. Yes, you may think I look like a pirate, but I'm not a pirate. I fly the flag of the stars and stripes. Yes, for America. Let me tell you a few stories before we get into this. About the year 1780s, right when this great country of ours became a country that we have today, we had a little bit of a problem over in the Mediterranean Sea, you understand, with the Barbary Pirates of Morocco and Tripoli and Algiers. They wanted tribute money from us for protection. Protection from what? From them. That's what they wanted protection from. And they were taking everything they could get. They were the pirates, not I. President Washington didn't know how to deal with them. We had no navy. We had no ships. And our merchant ships were being overtaken. Yes, they were. What we needed to do was to put them to the sword. But we had not the manpower, nor had we had the navy. We had nothing that we could do to help ourselves. So we eventually, through the president's persistence, had a few warships made. Oh, yes, he did. Yes, he did now. With cannons and the men to fight. We would not pay tribute. But we still did. We sent a ship over there called the USS George Washington. The USS George Washington. But before I get to what happened to the George Washington, let me tell you about a few other ships that were taken. One was called the Dolphin, and it was manned by Captain Richard O'Brien. A good Irish name, wasn't it? Yes, it is. He was a good man. The Dolphin was taken, and all the cargo was taken, and all the crew was taken by the Muslims. That's who the pirates were over there. This was in July of 1785. 1785. We hadn't even had a president yet. No, not yet. And already there was trouble. They were enslaved by the Algerians for 14 years. Oh, they took the crew and made them into slaves to do whatever they had the will to do. Well, later on, as we had a president, we had a man named John Adams that was an ambassador to England, and another man named Thomas Jefferson, the ambassador to France. They went to meet this Algerian leader. Well, he didn't treat them very nicely. And he told them, I can take any ship that I want to, and I can kill the men, or I can make them slaves, because you are not Muslim. And because you're not, you're infidels. According to our law and to the Quran, I can do whatever I want with you. And he did. And Mr. Jefferson said, what kind of a law is this? It's our law, he said. It's our law. My. The trade was crippling the United States. It was crippling us. They were taking everything. Our countries could not flourish under this economy that was going no place, Trade could not grow with the American merchants who was constantly being taken hostage in the Mediterranean where all the goods were. Secretary Jefferson, who is the Secretary of State now, refused to buy into the Barbary Pirates. Something had to be done. But what? We had no ships. He understood America could not even buy peace, or even a piece of bread. So in 1800, after President Washington was out of office already, and he had died just a year before, they sent a man named Captain William Bainbridge. He would captain the USS George Washington. He was outfitted with cannon. Now, the George Washington was to deliver some tribute to the leader of Tripoli. He was called the Pasha. Have you ever heard such a name? A Pasha? He was called the Pasha. And the tribute, he was supposed to bring it there and then come home. Didn't quite work out that way. 32 guns on this ship. You think he could have done something with it. So as the ship came in, it was a lot different than the other ships that had no guns. Especially, it was the very first ship that was a warship flying the stars and stripes. And I think they were a little bit afraid of that. Don't you think so? Yes, they were. Oh. The United States accepted the alternative to trade with the Algerians, with the Tripolians, with the Moroccans. And they would pay a little bit of tribute, but not that much. So, the George Washington arrived at port in Tripoli in September of 1800. September of 1800. The first American warship to enter the Mediterranean Sea. Now we'll see. Now we shall see. I was on that ship. I was just a wee mate, though. I wasn't a skipper or a captain like I am today. I was just a wee mate. Just getting my oats. The ship did not contain enough tribute, and the Pasha, or the Dey, they call him, D-E-Y, Dey, demanded that we pay all the tribute. Well, let's get it off the ship first, we say. So we let one of the Algerians come in, and he skippered the ship into the port. As he did, they started to unload everything. And as they unloaded, and the men talked, and the skipper, Bainbridge, went and talked to the Dey, he realized, you didn't bring me everything I wanted, did ya? He did. You see, they kept upping the tribute. Even as President Washington had died in 1799, they wanted an extra $100,000. That's too much money. We don't have that much money. So he said, here's what I'm going to do with you. Now, I'm hoping I'm telling you the story right, because it's been quite a while. I'm going to take your ship, he said, and you either do what I tell you to, or I will turn you all into my slaves. We couldn't have that. So, what is it you want us to do? They wanted us to go all the way to the other side of the Mediterranean Sea, to Constantinople, and pay a tribute to that person from the person in Tripoli. We can't do that. You're going to do it. And he told us we're going to do it. A ship that was only supposed to hold 200 people, he put 100 slaves on there. He put another 100 men on there. We were carrying slaves, and then he put livestock on there. Horses, sheep, cattle, chickens. And we carried everything. It took us a long time, 2 weeks, to get to Constantinople. Why didn't we just run away? We could have tried to run away. Captain Bainbridge, God bless his soul. He wasn't a thinking. He was too much of a trusting man. He let one of the Tripolians pull the boat out. And as it did, it went the wrong way, underneath all the guns of the fortress. Over 200 guns to our 32. And plus we had Tripolian ships surrounding the USS Washington. We didn't have a chance, folks. We didn't have a chance. We had to do what they tell us to do. So we did. We dumped everything off there. We went back to America. The president was not happy. No. The people of America was not happy. What could we do? We didn't get back until January of 1801. It took us a long time. It took us a long time to get back. By the time we got to our port, it was April 1801. It took us from January to April to get back. Guess who was the president then? President Thomas Jefferson. Yes, he was. He wasn't Secretary of State anymore. He was president. His first act would be to eliminate the pirates of Barbary Coast. Piracy. Piracy, I'm telling you. The Tripoli ruler, or the Pasha, or the Dey that he calls himself. Jefferson would decline Tripoli any tribute. And so what did Tripoli do? They declared war on us. On the United States. Little Tripoli. Of course, we didn't have a navy. We didn't really have an army. So the ships that we did have, we set up a blockade. We sent them over there. Oh, yes, we did. Now, things have changed. Commodore Bainbridge was sent into the Mediterranean, and we suffered much embarrassment at the Barbary's bays, Pashas. He commanded the USS George Washington and was embarrassed. We almost lost everything. This time, there might be war. So what did the Dey do? He ousted the American embassy by disrespectfully telling them, we're going to take that flag down of yours, the stars and stripes, unless you give us more tribute. We weren't going to do it. So they tried to cut the flagpole down. They used axes and they tried to cut it down. This is what a couple of my mates were telling me about. It wouldn't come down. No, it wouldn't come down. Eventually, they cut down the flagpole. And we still had men there that were prisoners from the Dolphin. And a few other ships too. I can't get into all of them. But it was not good. During President Jefferson's time, it became an economic necessity to defeat the pirates. We can't be a trading if we're giving them all of our money. Without the free trade flow, the United States would be no more. Now, it doesn't seem like it's all that terrible. It was terrible, folks. It was very terrible. Yes, it was. I had my own ship by this time. It was a bonny ship. It was called the Seahawk. Now, it wasn't a USS ship, but it was my ship. And I did fly the stars and stripes. So I'd be helping them. Oh, yes, I would. I'd be watching. I wasn't wearing the fancy uniform of the United States Navy, but I was respected. Yes, I was. And I still am. I'm standing outside this pub right now, and I'm waiting for my mates to tell me when the boat's going to be ready. And then we're off. We're off again. Yes, we will be. So I just have a little bit more time to tell you about what's going on. Finally, in 1803, after several years of harsh learning about the United States Navy, we successfully used that show of force right there and pushed the Sultan of Morocco, another one of the Barbary states, into peace. Into peace. Now, you know how this all came about. There was two brothers that were fighting over there, and one of them took over the bad one. It was an in for us. Yes, it was. Now, I'll tell you one more story. One more story, and then my mates might be coming out. I told you we sent those ships over there, and we blockaded the ports. Oh, they weren't going to give up without a fight now. And we had one ship called the USS Philadelphia. Can you remember that now? The USS Philadelphia completely changed the way that warfare would be. It was outfitted with lots of guns now. The Tripolians had 307 American prisoners as slaves. 307 now. And they had a 40-gun American frigate that they would use. That frigate would be the USS Philadelphia. How could it be? Because as we were giving chase to them, they led us into a channel. 40 fathoms of water, no problem. The Philadelphia was afloat. Come morning, though, the water went away. The tide went out, and the Philadelphia was reefed. It was beached. It was stuck. No matter how many cases of wine, no matter how many casts they threw over the side, it wouldn't move. So, the pirates, the Moroccans, they came aboard, and they took all the mates. They took them all, 307 of them, and they took the ship too. Now they had the ship, and they could use it against us, and they were beginning to get it off the reef. Well, before Commodore gave up that ship, they drilled holes in the bottom of it. Yes, they did. They threw a lot of cannons over into the water. You know what those Moroccans did, don't you? They plugged up those holes, and they dragged the cannons from the bottom of the ocean, and they put them back in place again. They're pretty smart. These people, the Moroccans, the Algerians, and the Turks, they captured the Philadelphia. Now, I was with a young man named Lieutenant Stephen Decatur. Can you remember that name now? Lieutenant Stephen Decatur. He had a plan. He said, we must destroy the Philadelphia. If not, they'll use it against us. He was right. And I was on the expedition with him. Yes, I was. Listen to what we did. He raised 70 volunteers I was one of his mates. Yes, I was. We would disguise ourselves as Moroccan traders and get our boat up close to the Philadelphia. Once we did, not using any guns, we would board her and we would cut their throats and take back to Philadelphia by blowing her up. That's what we do. We would use a ship called the Intrepid. Not a very big body ship, but a good-sized ship. So we received orders January 1st, 1804. It was extremely small and uncomfortable in that ship, designed to carry about 30 men. 70 were forced to cram on there. So instead of 30, we had 70 men on a small ship. Only about 6 or 7 crew members could be on the deck, so it wouldn't be suspicious because we were being Maltese traders. You understand? The voyage lasted about a week by the time we got this thing together. And we arrived at Tripoli on February 7th, 1804. To sneak into the harbor, we disguised ourselves as merchants flying a British flag. A British flag now. Not the American flag, the British flag. We dressed as Maltese sailors. And as she raised up the British Union Jack, they welcomed us to come. We came closer, and we got closer. And as soon as the skipper, Lieutenant Decatur, got aboard the Philadelphia, a whistle went out, and everybody come out. We killed about 20 of them. Yes, we did. Some of them got away. They jumped overboard. But as we were fighting with cutlass in hand, we've got 20 of them. We found a powder hold. And we used candles with long wicks. And as the wicks start to burn, we got off and we sailed away. And before you know it, we heard explosions. The fighting only lasted about 10 minutes now. We're pretty good fighters. It would take a little more time, and we got back safely. It was the most daring thing of the age. We heard the toad. Now let me finish off by telling you how it ends. At least this part does, anyway. The conclusion of the first Barbary War was in 1805, when President Thomas Jefferson finally achieved the diplomatic measures that he wanted for years prior. American merchants could now sail the Mediterranean, and trade became unhindered. Pride was restored to the United States of America, and now we have a Marines on our ship. At that time, only had 6. Now we had more men that were joining. They secured the place in Tripoli for United States foreign policy. During the Barbary Wars, the United States learned never to negotiate from a position of weakness again. Strength. You have to have strength, folks. To always be prepared to use force if diplomatic relations went sour. They went sour, all right. So now President Jefferson can put that notch in his belt. Can he? Yes, he can. because he saved American trade and he gave us back our pride. You don't mess with America. You just don't. Because if you do, we're going to make it work for ourselves, aren't we? I hear my mates are calling me, so I'm going to have to go because our ship is ready. And I'm sailing out on the Seahawk. I don't know who we may encounter, but I'll tell you this now. Me and my mates, we'll be ready. If you see my cousin Ezekiel, tell him I said hello. And I might not see him in months, maybe years. But tell him I look fine. Would you now? Would you tell him I look fine? I'm going to come back later on. And I'm going to tell you a couple more stories about President Jefferson. He was quite the man, you know. Remember, you need to be kind to people now. You need to tell them how you feel, that you love them. Be a nice person. And I'll hopefully be talking to you when I get back from our mission. Goodbye, y'all.